The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sean, and I want to welcome you all to the Stamps.com new customer webinar. I'd like to start here today with just a quick overview of the features and benefits of Stamps.com, and then I'll be demonstrating the various ways that we can actually use the software. Stamps.com is an approved licensed vendor for the United States Postal Service. We have over 400,000 customers who've used our service to print out over $1 billion in postage. You are joining hundreds of thousands of small businesses that use Stamps.com every day to efficiently manage their mailing and shipping needs, as well as thousands more individuals printing from home, and many large nationwide corporations. You can see some of their logos featured here. So what does Stamps.com enable you to do? Stamps.com gives you the ability to print official U.S. postage using just your computer and existing printer. It's as easy as click, print, mail. Just print out your postage for any amount or mail class and hand your letters or packages to your mail carrier, drop them in any USPS post box, or even schedule the USPS to pick them up for free. Stamps.com gives you great flexible options. NetStamps combine the convenience of regular stamps with the flexibility of printing the exact postage amount on every stamp. No more wasted postage using 2 full stamps when you really only needed a little bit more than one. Stamps.com also enables you to print the delivery address, return address, and postage directly onto envelopes in one simple step. You can even customize your envelope with a logo or image at the same time. It's an easy way to give every envelope you mail a sharp, professional appearance. And Stamps.com can even handle a variety of windowed envelopes. With Stamps.com, you can easily print complete shipping labels with ultimate flexibility. Whether you're printing just one label or a batch for an entire mailing list, Stamps.com has all the features you need to help you make sure your shipping process is easier than ever. With Stamps.com, you never have to go to the post office again. Simply hand your mail to your mail carrier or drop off your package into any mailbox. Because Stamps.com is considered a known mailer, you can exceed the 13-ounce mailbox weight limit. The rule is, if it fits, it ships. You can even schedule the USPS to pick up your packages for free, so long as you have at least one priority, express, or international mail service parcel. So why do so many people use Stamps.com? You can save time by using Stamps.com to calculate and print postage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You never have to go to the post office again. You can print addresses and postage in one simple step. And you can use reference codes for fast and easy cost tracking. With Stamps.com, you'll receive discounts that you can't get with a postage meter or at the post office. You'll print the exact postage you need every time, never overpaying again. Stamps.com also provides discounted package insurance and free priority mail delivery confirmation. All in all, you can save 80% over the cost of a physical postage meter. You can put an end to sloppy, handwritten addresses, giving all of your letters and packages a sharp, professional look. And you can even customize your postage with a logo or marketing message. Stamps.com is a great way to increase your efficiency. You can put an end to return mail with Stamps.com automatic address verification. You can send certified mail and return receipt without going to the post office. You can import from several popular PC address books, and you'll get instant side-by-side postage rate comparisons for all mail classes. You can use Stamps.com for all of your mail, both domestic and international. Stamps.com is the post office in your office. Fast, easy, and affordable. Now, before we get into how to use Stamps.com, I'd like to take a moment to point out that while you all are able to hear me, I cannot hear you. And that being said, if you look over on the right-hand side of your screen, there is an area where you can type in any questions you might have, and you should please feel free to do so as your questions come up. While I will not be able to answer these questions during the webinar itself, I will be setting aside some time afterwards in order to address any questions that might have come up. I do ask, however, that if you have any questions pertaining specifically to your account, that you call our customer care team for personalized assistance. And I'll be covering how they can be reached in just a moment. So now let's take a look at the Stamps.com software. So what we're looking at here is the Stamps.com home screen. This will be the first screen you see every time you log on to the Stamps.com software. And now it's normal if your screen looks a little bit different from what I have up on mine, as the home screen does change its appearance based on the service plan that you have. So there is, as we can see, a lot of information on this screen. And so I'd like to start just by pointing out a few really important items to be aware of here. First, in the lower right-hand corner of the screen, we have the Contact Stamps.com section. And this provides the email link and phone number for reaching our customer care and technical support departments. Our customer care team can be reached from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m., Monday through Friday, by dialing 877-782-6739. I should also stress that there is absolutely no charge for contacting our customer care team. Now, Quick Tools, in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen here, provides a list of very useful links, such as the Learning Center, which is a series of video manuals for using Stamps.com. They're similar to what we're doing right now, but they're broken up into smaller segments. And then you have the Online Help link. And this is a searchable help guide that covers just about anything you'd need to know about Stamps.com or related USPS regulations. It's a fantastic place to find information. Over to the left of Quick Tools, I want to point out that we can see the gold postage balance box. This displays your current postage balance with Stamps.com, and you can purchase more postage by clicking on the Buy Postage link beneath the amount. And this opens up the Purchase Postage window. Here you can just click on the amount you'd like to purchase, or you can type in a specific amount by choosing Other and typing in whatever you'd like there. When you want to purchase your postage, just go ahead and hit OK, and that will process the transaction. And these postage purchases can typically be expected to process instantly. It's also worth noting that this is USPS issued postage, and we don't add any fee to these transactions whatsoever. Now, below the postage balance box here is the home link. Clicking on this at any time takes us back to the screen that we're on right now. And both the postage balance and the home link are here at the bottom of this blue navigation bar running up and down the left-hand side of the screen. And this bar contains all of the important links you need to actually use the service. It's our hub when we're using Stamps.com. And as you can see, the bar is broken down into 4 major categories. Print postage up at the top, and then View History, Manage Account, and Buy Supplies. All of these are worth discussing, but I'd like to start with the most important category, print postage. As you might have guessed, the print postage section is what we would use to actually print out all of our stamps and labels. It's divided into different subsections, which narrow down our focus. First, up at the top, we have the Postage Wizard. This provides a step-by-step walkthrough that guides you through the process of creating your postage. I don't really want to go into any detail here, as effectively I'm going to be your virtual postage wizard today. So what I'd like to do is start by going ahead and looking at the next section, the Stamps section, which we can get to just by clicking on the word Stamps up at the top of the blue navigation bar below the Postage Wizard. Now, new users should be receiving this pop-up warning upon opening the stamp screen. And all this window is letting us know is that we are not able to use plain paper to print out NetStamps. NetStamps are unique in this way, as they must be printed specifically on NetStamps label sheets. All of our new customers should receive a few NetStamp sheets in their welcome kit. And if you just very recently signed up, you should please keep an eye out for this welcome kit. It will come in a big blue envelope from Stamps.com. So each NetStamps label sheet has a serial number in the upper right-hand corner. And you can type in the serial number right here in the upper right-hand corner of the Stamp section below Print Details. And this is how Stamps.com knows what label sheet you're printing on. So I'll go ahead and type in the serial number for one of my original NetStamps label sheets now. And as you can see, when I type in that number, we see a preview picture of that label sheet below. Now the stamp section here, we can see it's divided into 2 halves. We've just been looking briefly at the Print Detail screen on the right. This is where you can choose your serial number and your print quantity. And we also have the postage detail section on the left. And we use this half of the screen to specify or calculate the cost of the postage for a mail piece. So I'd like to demonstrate how to use the stamp section by printing out a few stamps for some 1-ounce letters that I need to send. So looking here at postage details on the left, we can see there are two different ways that I could do this. My first option is to choose to specify the value for each stamp, which I would do if I knew exactly how much postage I needed. All I would need to do is specify the mail class and an amount of postage. For instance, with my example, I know that a first class 1-ounce letter is 44 cents. So I've chosen first class mail for the mail class. And I can type in 0.44 for the amount. And I'm finished. I'm technically ready to print. But let's say we're not sure how much postage is going to be. Well, what we can do is have Stamps.com calculate the exact postage for us by clicking on, I want the value for each stamp to be calculated. So I'll just go ahead and click on the little radio button here to the left of that. So first here, what we'll need to do is choose our mail piece. In this case, it's already set to letters, but we have a lot of other choices available to us. Everything ranging from postcards to oversized packages. For my example, though, I'm just going to go ahead and use letters. Next, we'd need to enter in a weight. And again, in this case, it's already set to 1 ounce, but this can be changed just by clicking up or down on these arrows or typing in a specific weight. Also, if you have a digital scale set up, you can click on this weigh button to have the scale automatically enter the weight in for us. And you can also click on this auto checkbox to have the scale automatically update the weight in Stamps.com without you needing to click the weigh button. You can just place the item on your scale without auto box checked, and Stamps.com would automatically read the weight from the scale. Now, if you don't already have your scale set up, when you click on the weigh button, this window should open up here. Now, setting up the scale is easy. First, you would plug in the scale and turn it on. And then when you click on the weigh button and see this screen come up, instead of seeing USB scale not found here for the digital scale selection, it should recognize the scale. You'll see its name right there. And then all you have to do is click on the install button over here on the right, and Stamps.com will take care of the rest. It's that easy. So back to our example. We already have the mail piece set to letters and a weight of 1 ounce chosen. So all that's left to do here is choose our mail class. And one of the great features of Stamps.com is this side-by-side pricing that we're seeing for each of the mail classes. However, you'll see that Priority and Express are showing us a price range as opposed to a specific amount like First Class is. And the reason for this is that both of these mail classes use what's called zone-based pricing. Effectively, the price varies based on how far away from your recipient you are. So to get an exact cost, what we could do is enter in the zip code of our recipient, or the destination zip. That's right here below the mail classes. So for example, I'll just choose a random zip code here on the opposite coast. And having done that, we can now see an exact price for both Priority and Express Mail. However, for this example, I'm just going to go ahead and use First Class Mail. So I'll go ahead and switch back to that now. So now that we have the cost figured out, all we have to do is change the quantity of stamps we're printing. And so we can do this back here on Print Details in the upper right-hand corner. I could use the arrows to select a specific amount or type in a quantity. And I also have the option of checking this Print All button. And what this does is have Stamps.com automatically use all of the remaining available stamps on the sheet. For my example, though, I just want to go ahead and print up 3 of these stamps. So now I'm done filling out everything I need to on this screen. But before I print, I like to check the total cost down at the bottom, just to make sure I haven't made any major mistakes. Now, $1.32 definitely looks good for 3 44-cent stamps, so I'm ready to print. Now, before printing real postage for the very first time, I always recommend printing out a sample onto plain paper first. Sample prints don't cost us anything, and by using a plain sheet of paper for that print, they won't use up any of our label sheets either. So after loading plain paper into my printer, I'll just click on the Print Sample button in the lower right-hand area. And that will open up the printing screen, or the print sample label window in this case. And here you can change which printer you're using and which paper feed tray you're using just by clicking on one of these two drop-down menus. And then you can click on the print button here to go ahead and print the sample. And that will print out voided sample postage. And if that comes out looking good, you know that your real postage should print out perfectly. Now, printing actual postage is just like printing a sample, except that instead of using the print sample button, we'll use the blue print postage button just to the left. So I'm going to go ahead and print out my postage now. And you can see that when we print our postage, this helpful notice comes up letting us know that if something went wrong with the print, we're able to reprint it once at no cost. And you can also see that the reprint button in the very lower right-hand corner is now clickable. So if something did go wrong with the print, for example, a paper jam occurred on my printer, once I take care of that jam, I could click on this reprint button. Go ahead and check this box here on this Certify Reprint window, just to let the USPS know that I'm officially swearing I never used the original postage. And I'd be able to print again at absolutely no cost. It's important to be aware that we only get one attempt with the free reprint, so we'd need to request a refund for the postage if the reprint failed. And we'll go into a little bit of detail on how to do that later. Now, I'm just about done talking about the stamp section here, but before we move on, I'd like to take a closer look at this preview picture of the NetStamp label sheet over here on the right. I'd like you to notice that the first 3 stamps on this sheet are now grayed out. And this is indicating that Stamps.com keeps track of how much of each stamp sheet you've used, and it remembers which labels you've already printed on. And it will remember this even if you turn off your computer. So it's a very helpful way to help prevent yourself from accidentally printing on the same blank slot. And the last thing I'd like to touch on here are these plus group and minus group buttons right at the bottom of this preview sheet. The plus group button can be used to print postage of different denominations at the same time. So for an example, if I wanted to print out a single 44-cent stamp and also a single 88-cent stamp for a large envelope, I could click on the plus group button here. If we look at the preview picture, we can now see that there's a stamp with the number 2 on it. And by clicking on this stamp, we can then enter in the postage details for group number 2. So I'll go ahead and set my mail piece here to large envelopes and flats and choose first class mail. And now we can see that my total cost is $1.32. And we have 88 cents for the large envelope stamp and 44 cents for the standard 1-ounce letter stamp. And you can click between these groups at any time to determine or change the specifics of that stamp, just like I'm doing now. That said, let's go ahead and move on to the next section under print postage, the envelope section. Now we can get here just by clicking on the word envelopes over near the top of the blue navigation bar. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. And as the name suggests, we can use this section to print directly onto envelopes. So up at the top of the screen here, we can enter in both the return and the delivery address. You'll notice that Stamps.com does remember which return address you use, so I don't need to enter that in up here, but I do always have the option of changing it just by selecting and typing in whatever I'd like. Also, if I did not want to print the return address, for example, I have them pre-printed on my envelopes, I could just uncheck the checkbox right next to return address, and that will tell Stamps.com that I do not want to print it. And you'll notice that when I did that, this preview picture of the envelope over here on the right no longer indicates that a return address is going to be printed. So for folks who are using windowed envelopes, this is definitely an important feature to be aware of. And you're also able to do this for the delivery address as well. So you can uncheck the delivery address to indicate that you do not want to print that out either. Now in my case, I'd like both of those printed out, so I'll go ahead and re-enable those options. We can also change the font settings of either address by clicking on this button here, this underlined italicized A, just to the right of where it says return address at the top. And we have a wide range of font options available to us here. But of course, you should keep in mind that the post office must be able to actually read the address. So I definitely recommend that if you do change your font settings, you print out a sample just to make sure it looks right before actually printing live postage with it. Now finally, the other option I'd like to look at here for the addresses, just to the right of the font settings, we can add a graphic by clicking on this second button here with the little icon of a mountain. And now here, all we need to do is check the Include Graphic button, and then you could click on the Browse button just to locate on your computer the image file that you'd like to include onto the envelope. Now that said, let's go ahead and take a look at the delivery address here. Now the delivery address can be entered in on the upper right-hand side of the screen here. And you should notice that we have the same font and graphic options available for the delivery address as we do with the return address. Now, if I wanted to choose a delivery address from my address book, I could click on this address book button over here in the upper right-hand corner, and that would open up the address book window. And now here you can add, edit, or delete any address book entries using these buttons on the right, or you can choose a contact to use by double-clicking on it in the main list. I'll go ahead and do that now, printing up a nice envelope to myself, as I clearly often do. And so I'll just go ahead and double-click on my name here, and that will automatically pull the saved address into the delivery address field here. So now that we have both of the addresses sorted out, we can go ahead and complete the postage details, which are over here on the left-hand side of the screen, just like we did when we had the stamps section calculate the postage. So first, we have our mail piece. And our options here are more focused on what we're able to actually print out from the envelope section. So it will be either letters, postcards, large envelopes, or even flat rate envelopes. And then next we have the weight. And this is entered in the exact same way as we did in the stamp section. So you can use your digital scale with this weigh button, or go ahead and type in a specific weight that you'd like. I'm going to go ahead and leave it at 1 ounce for my example. And the mail class is also entered in the exact same way as the stamp section. So I'll go ahead and use first class mail here. But there are a few new options here on this screen that I'd like to take a look at. So first, we have this additional options button here down below the mail classes. And we can click on this to pick from a number of different special services offered by the USPS to associate with our envelope. So for example, the most common one that I would think of is certified mail. So if I wanted to send this envelope via certified mail, I could just go ahead and check the certified mail option here at the top of the additional options section. And the total cost of these additional options is going to update here at the bottom. I also want to point out that in this additional options screen, most of these additional options do include clickable links to the required USPS forms associated with them. And clicking on these links will give you more information about those forms. So for example, for the certified mail form, if I click on this link here, it opens up the help section that includes an explanation and a picture of the USPS certified mail form. It's very important that these forms be included if they are required. Without the form, for example, if I were to go ahead and choose certified mail but not include the form for my envelope, all I'd be doing is paying $2.85 extra for a service I'm not actually taking advantage of. So it's very important that you do include the forms when you're printing out with special services. Finally, I'd like to note that this screen only lets you choose options that can actually be used with your mail piece. So you never have to worry about accidentally choosing a service that is ineligible for what you're mailing. So I'll go ahead and close out of this window now. And if we look below the additional options button, you can see that we can elect to add insurance to our mailing. Now we're able to choose between USPS issued insurance and Stamps.com issued insurance. And now I do want to go ahead and point out that Stamps.com issued insurance does come with a number of benefits. First, you'll receive discounts of up to 20% over the cost of USPS insurance. Secondly, with Stamps.com insurance, you do not need to take the mail piece to the post office or fill out any special forms. And if you do need to file a claim, you can do so right from within the software. Whereas with the USPS insurance, to file a claim or send an item insured by USPS insurance, that would require a trip to the post office. And finally, Stamps.com processes insurance claims within 10 business days for Stamps.com issued insurance, whereas the USPS does take within 30 business days to file their claims. And that's really all I want to say about insurance here. But if I did want to include insurance, I could do that just by, say, typing in the amount I want to insure the item for, $10 in this case, and then choosing which carrier I'd like to use over here on the right. Now, if we look below the insurance, finally, we've got the mailing date. That's the last option I want to take a look at here. Now, any postage that we print outside of the stamp section is going to have a mailing date associated with it. And what the date means, the significance of that, is that items must be mailed on their mailing date. If the date is missed, you would either need to print a corrected date onto that mail piece or refund the postage and print a replacement. Now, the mailing date can be changed by clicking on these arrows or by typing in a specific date. And you should note that any invalid date, such as a Sunday or a USPS holiday, is going to be highlighted in yellow. So Stamps.com will prevent you from accidentally choosing an invalid mailing date. Now let's go ahead and look at the print detail section over on the right-hand side of the screen. If we look above the preview picture of the envelope, you can click on this Printing On drop-down menu here to specify what we're going to be actually printing our postage on. Now you can choose from a wide variety of different sized envelopes, as well as a number of adhesive mailing labels as well. Definitely a lot of options here, and there are even more options if you click on this More link down below. But for my example, I'll just go ahead and use this standard number 10 envelope. Now finally, if we look below the preview image of the envelope on the right, we do have this option, Do Not Include Postage. Now checking this box would go ahead and print out only the addresses, and obviously would not cost us any postage. So as I check this option, notice that the preview image removes the actual stamp and the barcode over to its left, and that my total cost is $0. And in fact, it grays out this whole left-hand side of the screen, which all has to do with calculating the cost of postage. And I can just uncheck that to get the postage right back onto the envelope. So now for this envelope, we have all the necessary information entered in already. So we're ready to go ahead and print our postage. If this is your first time printing onto an envelope with Stamps.com, you will be asked to configure your printer with Stamps.com. So if I were to hit Print Postage here, I'm being asked to press this Configure button to go ahead and configure that printer. Now, all you would need to do is click on this Configure button, and then a helpful wizard will guide you step by step through the very quick configuration process. Effectively, what will happen is Stamps.com will first print a number onto your envelope to determine where in your paper tray your envelopes are loaded in, and then a full sample postage print just to make sure it was configured properly. I don't want to go into any more detail about printer configuration here, as it's a little bit beyond the scope of this webinar, but I do want to say that if you do have any difficulty configuring your printer, you should please call our customer care team. And again, that number is 877-4782-673. Now that we've covered how to print for stamps and envelopes, I want to talk about the next section under print postage here, and that would be the packages section, which we can find just below envelopes near the top of this blue navigation bar on the left. We can use this section to print out domestic shipping labels. And as you can see, just looking at the layout here, it's very similar to the envelope section. So now, as with envelopes, we can enter in the return and delivery address up at the top here. These are both required for shipping label, so we do not have the option to omit them by unchecking the box like we did in the envelope section. We also have the same options here for changing the font size or including a graphic. That's again right up here at the top by return address. One new option we have here beneath the delivery address is this email recipient option. And this is a very, very popular feature. What this does is allow us to automatically send a customizable shipment notification email to your recipient at no cost. So when you print your label, later that day, this email will go out automatically to them, and it will let your recipient know that their package has been shipped. And it even includes a clickable link that they can use to see the current tracking information for that package. Now, the postage details section over here on the left, this is completed in much the same way as envelopes. All of our mail piece options here are specific to domestic packages. So we'll see a number of flat and regional rate options here as well. We'll just go ahead and choose the packages mail piece, as the package I'm sending out for this demonstration is not flat rate or oversized. So now that I've chosen my mail piece, I'll go ahead and enter in my weight. Let's say that's 2 pounds and 0 ounces. Now you should notice after I've entered in this weight of 2 pounds, if we look at the mail classes below, I'm not able to choose first class mail as my mail class. That's grayed out and labeled not applicable. And the reason for this is that there is a 13-ounce weight limitation on domestic first class mail. Stamps.com consistently ensures that you're not able to print invalid postage. Very, very handy feature. So I know that I cannot choose first class mail. So I'll just go ahead and choose priority mail here. Now next we're being asked to enter in the dimensions of this package. And I'll just go ahead and enter that in now. And we can do that right here just below the mail class, entering in the length, the width, and the height. So here I have a 12 by 10 by 12 package. Now below the dimensions, we have these e-confirm options. Now here, what we have as our options, we have either delivery confirmation or signature confirmation. Now Stamps.com does provide free delivery confirmation with priority mail, so I will go ahead and use that. And these options just relate to the tracking information on the right, or at least delivery confirmation does. That gets me this barcode and tracking number. Signature confirmation would simply require that the recipient sign for the package once it's delivered. Now below the e-confirm options, we do have some of the same options available in the envelope section. So we have the same additional options section where we can choose special services to add to our package. We can add insurance, just like we do in the envelope section, by entering in an amount and choosing the insurance provider. And we also have a mailing date to modify as well. Now in this case, I'll just go ahead and leave those all as is. So now let's go ahead and take a look at the print detail section over here on the right. Now here I'm able to choose the label I'm printing on, just like I chose the envelope I was printing on earlier. So I can click on this Printing On menu just above this preview picture and be shown a full list of either plain paper labels or adhesive labels that I'd be able to use to print out this shipping label. Now in my case, I always like to save some money and choose to print my label onto a plain sheet of printer paper. So I'll go ahead and do that now. But it is worth noting that we do have a large variety of labels designed to tailor to whatever your specific preferences might be, including rolls for thermal printers. Now below the preview picture, there are 3 new options that we haven't seen before. Print message is the first of them, and this allows us to type in a personalized message that will appear on the label beneath the tracking number and the barcode. For example, thank you for your purchase. And then we have these 2 checkboxes here. This hide postage option will replace the dollar amount on the label, which is the dollar amount of the postage, with a simple postage paid. So this option is extremely popular with eBay vendors and other sellers who receive upfront payment for shipping and handling, as it's a great way to prevent any disputes over small discrepancies in the postage collected versus the postage actually paid for the label. And then the final new option here is this print receipt option. And what this does is print out a receipt and handling instructions opposite your label, which we can see included here in the preview picture above. Now in my case, I do not want to include that. I'll go ahead and uncheck it. But really, everything we've looked at here, very, very similar to the envelope section. not a whole lot of difference between those two sections other than the options I've explicitly talked about here. So now I'd like to go ahead and take a look at the blue navigation bar over here on the left. And let's take a look at the international section, the next section right below packages. I'll go ahead and click on that now. Now this section allows us to print out international shipping labels specifically. And it is also quite similar to the layout of the packages section. However, there are a few key differences. For example, below the return address in the upper left, we have the option return to sender if non-delivery. For those of you not terribly familiar with sending international mail, I strongly recommend that you include this item by just checking this box. There's no additional cost, and this will ensure that your package is returned to you if it's deemed undeliverable. Without including that option, it's possible that the package would never come back to you if it were not deliverable. Also below there, we can see that a phone number is required to mail an item out internationally. Now we have both a phone number for the return address and the delivery address. The delivery address phone number is also required, and ideally you would use the recipient's phone number. But of course the USPS understands that you don't always have the phone number for the person you're sending a package to internationally. And in those cases, it's considered common practice to use your own phone number instead. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the postage detail section here on the left, as this is where things get a little bit different from the packages section. First, let me go ahead and enter in a delivery address, actually. Now, what I'm doing to convince Stamps.com that this is an international address, I'm just taking my own return address and adding Canada as a fifth line. Stamps.com sees Canada as the country and says, OK, I assume this is an international address. Now, my address is obviously not a valid Canadian address, but Stamps.com does not keep a comprehensive database of all known deliverable addresses worldwide, like we do with domestic mail. So with domestic mail, any address you try to send an item to, it'll be checked against the USPS database of known deliverable addresses. And if there's an issue, Stamps.com will let you know so it can be corrected. And the idea there is we want to prevent undeliverable mail from happening. But internationally, the USPS understandably does not have a database of known deliverable addresses. So Stamps.com will identify an international address just by the presence of the name of a foreign country. Now that said, I have a delivery address entered in here, so now I'd like to take a look at the postage detail section over here on the left. So weight, we enter that in the exact same way that we would typically. And actually, the screen just came up here. This happened after I entered in my delivery address and clicked away. And this confirm international address screen is Stamps.com's way of just making sure that it's properly formatting the international address. Because there are so many different formats for international addresses, Stamps.com can't always guess accurately. So it uses this screen just to help you verify that it's going to read the address appropriately here. So I always recommend if the screen does come up, just go ahead and give it a once-over to make sure that everything does look right. And go ahead and make any necessary changes. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at postage details finally. So the weight, we enter that in the exact same way as we do in all the other sections of Stamps.com, so I don't really have anything to say about that. But the mail class is a little bit different. So in the international section, you actually choose both your mail piece and your mail class in this same mail class menu here. So we have a lot of different options, all combinations of mail pieces and mail classes. For example, you'll notice that we have the Priority Mail International Flat Rate box. We've got the small flat rate box, large flat rate box here, as well as express mail and first class options here. Now in my case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose first class mail international package right here at the bottom. That's a nice cheap option. Having done that, now this restrictions section populates here, and that's down below the mail class. We can click on this to give it a larger view. Now this is just a list of the full various restrictions and prohibitions governing mail being sent to your destination country, and it's all available just there for your own ease of reference. Please do not think that you'll need to read through this entire body of text. It's just Now below this restrictions section, we have the Complete Customs Forms button. And now this is a very cool feature of Stamps.com. You're able to complete your customs forms and print them out right from within the software itself. So to do that, just click on the Complete Customs Forms button, and this Customs Information window will open up. Now, it already has my phone number here, so I don't need to worry about that. And the fax number is optional. So first, what I'll need to do is enter in my package information here in the middle. So for type of contents, let's just hypothetically say I'm sending a book over to a relative I have in Canada as a birthday present. So for type of contents, I'll just go ahead and choose gift. And then I'll be asked to enter in more info. I'll just type in book. Now going below for the itemized package content details, here we can specify a quantity. In this case, I'm just sending a single book, so the default quantity of 1 is fine. And then we're asked to add a more detailed description. So I'll just type in gift wrapped book. And we can also enter in a weight for the item. I'll just go ahead and say that that weighs 1 pound here. And then finally, an estimated value of that item. Let's say $20. So I filled in all the information I need to here. I've identified this as a gift wrapped book weighing 1 pound with a value of $20. Now I just click on this Add Item button over here to the right. And when I do that, we'll see the item appear here in the Itemized Detail section below. I'll go ahead and do that now. And there it is. Now all that's left to do is go ahead and check this box in the lower left-hand section of the screen here to acknowledge that we are familiar with the USPS Privacy Act statement. And then we can go ahead and hit OK. Now we can see I actually have a little warning here in red, letting me know that my total itemized weight exceeds my package weight. So it's complaining that, hey, your package, if we see here, I only have it listed as a 1 ounce weight. So I'm telling it that I'm putting a pound of merchandise into my 1 ounce package. So I'll go ahead and correct that by changing the weight here to 2 pounds, which is more reflective of what I'm actually sending. And now I have my customs form information completed. So with that done, if we just look at the last few remaining options under postage details, we can see that we have the same insurance and mailing date options available for international, just like we do for packages and envelopes. Now over on the right, this print details section, that's almost identical to the packages section. We do have a slightly more limited selection of labels we're able to print on, as we sometimes have to include full-page customs forms. But we can still use plain sheets of paper if we like. So I'll go ahead and do that now. And that's really all there is to international mailings. With some label types like this one here, the customs information actually prints out with the shipping label all in one form. So this preview label here, this is both the postage and the customs information. So for this package, once I print this out, I would be able to send this just like I would a domestic package by appending the label to that package there. So we could go ahead and print out a sample of the postage if we like, but we're running a little short on time here. So I want to go ahead and go back to the blue navigation bar over on the left. Now, finally, under the print postage section, we have this batch section, which I'll just go ahead and click on now briefly. Now, this is much more complicated than the other sections we've looked at so far. But batch is what we'd use to go ahead and manage any web stores or databases that we have integrated with Stamps.com. This is an extremely powerful tool that is unfortunately well beyond the scope of this webinar. But to learn more about batch, which you could use to integrate, say, an eBay account or an Amazon account, a customized online web store, or a database full of orders with Stamps.com, to learn more about this feature, you can watch our advanced shipping webinar. And you can watch this on demand anytime by going to www.stamps.com/webinar. And again, you'd be looking for the advanced shipping webinar. So that said, I want to take a look at the remaining few sections here on this blue navigation bar on the left. And they are going into any serious details a little bit beyond the scope of this webinar, but I would like to at least talk about them briefly. So let's go ahead and take a look at the View History category in the blue navigation bar. And let's start by clicking on Search, the first link there. Now in the search screen, I'm able to search through my entire history of printed items by a wide range of criteria. So in the upper left, I have two different ways of specifying a range. I can either choose a date range through the drop-down menu here, or I can use these calendar buttons over here on the right to specify an exact start and end date. Now after specifying a time period, I can search for specific information by using the search bar over here on the right. So I can type in, say, a recipient name or a tracking number, a reference code if I'm using that, really any criteria here. And then I can just press the Go button to search through my print history. And I'm also able to narrow down what specifically I'm searching for just by clicking on this magnifying glass here over on the left. So I can say search for just everything you see here, or specifically the cost code, mail class, etc. So if I wanted to see, show me just first class for the last 7 days, well, that's actually going to show me all three of the items here. But really very powerful search function. You can use this to quickly find any item you've printed out in the past. That said, let's go ahead and take a look at the next section under View History here, the Refund section. So I'll just go ahead and click on this Refund link in the blue bar on the left. Now in the Refund section, I'm able to request refunds for any misprinted or unused postage. So to get started, I would go ahead and click on the checkbox for the item or items I wanted to refund. For example, I could check this box here to refund those 3 stamps I printed out earlier. And then I could click on the blue Refund button up at the top here. And after doing that, the software would guide me step by step through the very quick refund process with its Refund Wizard. And then if I wanted to monitor the status of requested refunds, I could do that by clicking on this Refund History tab here up on the right. And that would show me the full list of pending refund requests I have, and it would let me know the status there, including once the refund was completed. I should note that any approved refund is credited directly back into the postage balance, which you can see in this gold box on the left. And completed refunds would show a status of complete under the refund history there. Now, looking back at the blue navigation bar, the next item here in View History is USPS Pickup. Now, as the name would suggest, we can use this section to schedule a free USPS pickup for our packages. You would simply place a check mark next to any of the items that you'd like to have picked up, and then click on the blue Schedule Pickup button. And this would then walk you through the short process to complete the USPS pickup request. Now finally, under View History, we have the Scan Form section in this blue bar on the left. These are also known as single scan forms. And I don't have anything here because this pertains specifically to packages with barcodes and tracking numbers. But what you can do here is select any number of shipping labels that have tracking barcodes and then associate all of them with a single master barcode that effectively counts for all of those packages you've associated with it. That is a scan form. So the reason you do this is when the USPS comes to pick up your packages, all they would need to do is scan the scan form that you've printed out, that one barcode, and instantly it would be as though all of the associated packages have had their tracking information updated to reflect the pickup. So it's a great mutual time saver, both for you and the USPS. Now next, if we look back at the blue navigation bar on the left, under the Manage Account section, we have My Account as the first link. I'm going to go ahead and click on that now. Now here in the My Account section, you can, among other things, change your password or your contact information. You can set up your cost reference codes or view your store order history here. You can access whatever section you'd like just by clicking on its relevant link. And most of these are quite self-explanatory. But a particular note, I want to point out the payment method here in the lower right-hand corner of the screen. This shows you your current payment method for Stamps.com. And to update or change that, you can just click on this Change link here. And that would open up a screen that would allow you to add, edit, or remove any stored payment information. Now let's go ahead and look back at the blue navigation bar on the left. I just want to touch on this very briefly, but the reports link right below my account, which I'll click on now. This reports section can be used to generate accounting reports for all of the expenses, purchases, and credits related to Stamps.com. And again, it's unfortunately a bit beyond the scope of this webinar, but I do encourage you to look into the section on your own. It can be a very powerful and very useful accounting tool. The last thing I'd like to touch on here is where you can go to order supplies. So looking back at the blue bar on the left, if we click on the online store link with this green shopping cart icon right below Buy Supplies, that will open up our online store here. And here you can buy really any supplies you would need to use with Stamps.com, you can purchase here. So labels, scales, printers, envelopes, pretty much anything you can think of is purchasable here. But of particular note, I'd like to point out this free USPS supplies link located right here. This free USPS supplies section allows you to order the free USPS supplies provided at the post office branches. So for example, their priority mail packaging, express mail packaging, all the various forms and labels can all be ordered here in the free USPS supplies section of our store. And these are completely free from us as well. We certainly don't charge you for the materials, nor do we charge you for the cost of shipping these items. Completely free. Now, this concludes the presentation portion of the webinar here. This broadcast is going to end, but I'd like to, of course, take some time now to answer any questions that you might have for me. I'm going to try and address all of your questions, but time is a little bit limited. If I do not get to your question, I do apologize, and I would encourage you to please contact our customer care department. I'll go ahead and put their number back up on screen here in the lower right-hand corner. And again, all of our support is completely free of charge. Thank you all very much for attending, and I'll go ahead and take your questions now.